Captain's Log, Supplemental. We were less than 3 days out of dock before I had to issue my first disciplinary action on a member of the crew. Several of our new cadets, fresh out of Starfleet, brought a popular social game along with them called Amidst Us. It seemed relatively benign at first. Some of the veteran bridge crew even joined in on the fun, but somebody managed to smuggle some honest-to-God moonshine on board and got a little too passionate with their play. I draw the line at drunken attempts to flush a suspected imposter out of an actual airlock.
All right, welcome back everybody to Captain's Log Supplemental. I am Chris, joined by Rob and Stanford. How are we all doing today?
Doing well, how are you?
Super. Just as a reminder to all the listeners out there, please rate and subscribe. That always helps us out, and it is much appreciated.
Dad, leave a review, too.
Oh, yeah, do that, too.
If we get good reviews, we'll read them on the show. That reminds me, we have our first hate mail.
Oh,
Do we really?
Yeah, it's from my friend John, though, so I don't think it really counts.
Oh.
Nice.
Let's see. He says that our Potpourri section should be named after some variant of Flotsam and Jetsam, and now we cannot do that because it's too good of an idea.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, so he's only heard episode 3, which means I don't think we've actually nailed it down as Potpourri yet by then.
No, I feel like that was very recent.
I'm also about 80% sure that name is going to change at some point.
Better not. I love it.
All right, guys. Well, with all that said, let's get into the episode. Today we are discussing episode 12, Silent Enemy of Enterprise. We kind of begin the episode with looks like a probe launching from the Enterprise. It's actually a subspace relay so they can communicate back to Earth. And everybody's getting a little bit excited about it because we get to finally say hi to everybody again, which is, that's just so nice. Get to a little chit-chat with the folks back home.
Now, I'm not a NASA engineer, but, should those come out of the ship a little faster so that you don't risk hitting it with the ship?
Just pew, shoot it out? Because
it just kind of meanders out. It's just do-do-do, and that just seems like a real big collision risk.
Yeah. Well, in the later Star Treks, in Next Generation, they always shoot, when they, dispatch a probe, they always shoot it like a torpedo, it seems like.
Right. Well, that's a probe, right? But this is more like a relay, I think they called it, or some shit. Yeah. So it's just going to stay there, but I feel like they should, I don't know. It should get out of the way a little quicker.
Well, you see the difficulty they've had with launching shuttles and whatnot, so it's
right. That's true.
It's tough for them.
And
if you've ever seen,
go ahead.
If you've ever seen a space shuttle launch, there are tiny little rockets on each of the components as well that blast them away from the main hull specifically for that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Get it out of the way.
Yeah, and I can understand that, but they want to know where this one is. And at first I'm like, well, maybe they just want to keep it fairly stationary so they can find it again. But then I realized, no. No matter how hard they launched it, it's still going to be going basically 0 speed as compared to warp and subspace communications. So get that fucker moving, man. Get it away from you.
Mm. So, shortly after they launch the relay antenna, a mysterious alien ship drops out of warp. The Enterprise and Archer try to hail them, but they don't seem so talkative, and they, without doing anything else, immediately warp out of there.
This whole open, I have another note.
Go ahead.
So, Hoshi, I think, was the channel's open, Captain, because the captain's can they hear us?
Yeah.
How do comms work? How do they know? Is there a read receipt like in text message?
I don't know.
I think she means more we are broadcasting right now.
Right.
They may not be listening, but we're at least broadcasting.
I don't know. I'm not sure that's what she means because they are always in these shows hail them and then they don't answer back or whatever. It's oh, okay. Or communicate with them or comms, they're refusing our comms or whatever. Like, it just seems like there's some kind of handshake going on that doesn't make any sense. All right, never mind. Yeah, it wasn't a good point. You keep going.
So Reed mentions that he got nothing on sensors. He couldn't pick up anything through the barriers that the enemy ship had on. So they have no idea, who was on it, how many people there were, what type of people they were, weapons, anything.
So much for that invasion of privacy thing.
Yeah, no. I mean, we got to scan. We got to. So T'Pol points out that they may not understand every species' motives, which I think is actually a good point.
Yeah.
I also liked Travis. Travis was like the first time I think we've seen in the show where they just admit the fact that maybe humans aren't as interesting as we all think that we are. Like, Archer's always going on like, "Hi, I'm Jonathan Archer from the planet Earth. I'm a human." And like, I don't know, man. Maybe they just don't care.
Maybe they just don't care. That's a good point.
Afterwards, Hoshi covertly kind of motions Archer over and says she found those people, and Archer's going to take it in his room so he can talk to them privately. And we find out shortly after that it's Reed's parents, and he's trying to get some kind of insider information on what Reed likes, because apparently he's a complete enigma to everybody. Just nobody knows. And I might add, they are very British. Like,
Reed's dad is so douchey too. He's such a dick the whole time.
The whole time.
It was fun seeing them though. I think it's also interesting. I don't know how often we get to see like civilian attire. Like, his dad's just wearing a polo shirt.
Oh, was he? I didn't even notice that. I like how his dad's like, had to go and be a stupid, lame space naval person instead of a cool-ass water naval person like his family.
Like, who's going to choose not space in that situation?
Apparently Reed's dad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The water is just fine for him.
So I've got this whole thing about Reed's family, Reed's dad, and then I've got this note which is like, what the fuck are we doing here? Is this a 90s sitcom?
So
like,
I had a note
ask him.
I had a note that like the whole like bumped my mic there, sorry. The whole A and B plots are like very whiplash in this episode. Yes. Like, we go from, imminent, very real danger from this alien ship to party planning, I guess.
Right.
Just a very odd dichotomy going on in this episode.
Right. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so, we discover from Reed's parents that he's a weirdo who doesn't really have a favorite food, or so we think.
Man, I don't have a favorite food. If you ask my parents what my favorite food is, they would not be able to tell you an answer. Like, I don't have a favorite food. I've got things I like, but I don't have a favorite food.
You got things you like really like though. Like, if you're given a choice between like 3 or 4 things.
Rob, you know me pretty well. Do I have a favorite food? Like, maybe I don't even know what it is. French fries. No, I do not like French fries.
I don't know. You really like Chinese food.
I do.
Like, a lot.
I do. I like egg rolls. Like, egg rolls are like my thing from a Chinese place. I do. If I had to pick a cuisine to eat forever, it'd probably be Mexican though.
Oh, Mexican's so good.
Followed by maybe Indian. Actually, we had Indian last night. Oh, so good.
So anyway, Star Trek. After were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, like, because Archer doesn't get anything out of them. And then he's like, Hoshi, this is your top priority. And
right.
I'm like, fuck, why? What? This is what the, also, like.
Disregard the new alien species we just discovered. Right. Communications officer, you got to find what he wants to eat.
It also feels very much like, T'Pol gets a bye because she's a Vulcan. So Hoshi's the last, like, lady on the bridge. So it feels very much like, oh, just make the woman play in the office parties. Like, that's some shit sexism right there.
I was going to say, this is American corporate, like, culture to a T.
I mean, to be fair, she's not planning the office party. She's just supposed to discover what his favorite food is.
But here's the thing, though. Like, T'Pol, as we established, is the XO. That is her job. Like, that's what an XO does.
She's too busy XOing.
But also, like, if it's like, okay, well, this is not, so, and this is why I say it's fucking sexism, because and I'm not saying it was on purpose, like it's unconscious sexism from 2001 here, right? Maybe 2 by now. But like Archer could have asked T'Pol, that is her actual job, but the writers don't want to do that. That's fine. The next person that Archer should ask from a logical writing standpoint is Trip, because this is not like a military thing. This is a personal friendship thing. And Archer and Trip are best buds, and Trip and Reed kind of like, they're fairly friendly, even if they're not like the friendliest people. But also Trip is like everybody's buddy. That's like his role that the writers have been using. But as soon as it comes to planning a fucking birthday party, they just default to Hoshi.
Look, Hoshi hasn't been getting much screen time the last couple episodes. She needed more screen time. And the writers, being Star Trek writers from the early 2000s, had only one way to do that.
It would have been, it's just as bad as if it was like in today's episode, it's titled Can't Stand the Heat. And it's like, oh, chef is sick and we need to cook all this food. And so Hoshi has to go do that.
And she does mention she likes to cook in this episode as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's just how it goes. And then because of a water pipe issue, she has to lose her shoes during it. Like, that's how bad this is.
Oh, gosh.
Anyways.
So, Archer orders Hoshi to find out what Reed's favorite food is. It's a very important mission, top priority. So later on, Trip and Archer kind of chit-chatting as they walk down the hallway. Trip got a Dear John letter from his lady back home, which is, that's sad. But, I mean, what did he expect?
Is that the conversation where he's like, you missed T'Pol's latest bout with chopsticks?
Yes, that was before. Uh-huh.
That was funny.
Can she not, like, I know that I have a bias because I was raised with like a fair amount of Japanese influence because my parents, met in Okinawa and whatnot. But like chopsticks are not that hard to use. And she's a Vulcan.
I don't know why, but when this conversation happened, I just like inside my own headcanon decided, I guess Vulcans just eat everything with pitas. I don't know why that popped into my brain.
No, actually that's funny because very specifically Vulcans do not eat with their fingers.
Yep.
That was established in like, I think the pilot episode because she cuts like the hard breadstick with a knife and a fork.
Right.
Huh.
Yeah. They do not eat with their fingers.
They're uncivilized. So shortly after that, the alien ship returns. They're still not chatty, but this time they are screechy and shooty. So they... Oh
yeah. I was like, so this happens sometimes. Do Starfleet comm speakers not just have like a volume limiter?
Right.
It's just like, let that fucker deafen the entire crew. Who cares?
No, that's good. They add that in afterwards. They're learning as they go. So the alien ship fires upon them, kind of does some minimal damage. They do get some scans and they figure out there's, a handful of people on the ship. And they get the repairs going. Archer and T'Pol realize kind of at this point that they need to upgrade the weapons. And this is where phase cannons are finally introduced in the show. And we don't have just lame-ass torpedoes anymore.
T'Pol during this conversation says something very interesting too. Because Archer's like, it feels like every week so something horrible happens. Which is like, yeah, that's why you're a TV show. But T'Pol, and so he's like, was it like this when y'all were exploring space? And T'Pol says, well, there were fewer warp-capable species back then. That's very interesting. Because, like, why? I'm not saying, I'm not saying it doesn't make sense, but I am saying that that's the kind of thing that needs a reason, right?
Sure. Because, like, it's definitely implied in, like, other times in Star Trek. There's, like, there's been rise and fall of various empires and, alien civilizations that have been warp capable before, that are just, kind of gone extinct at this point.
Right.
Like, this is also one of the potential solutions to the Fermi paradox, which, like, maybe there just aren't advanced spacefaring species in the Milky Way yet. So maybe it's the same kind of thing. Maybe Vulcans were just one of the first ones.
Right. Yeah. That solution has a name that's like first to the party or something like that. There's a name for that solution to the Fermi paradox.
So we then get a little little scene with Reed and Trip arguing with Archer about how we don't need to go back to Earth to install these phase cannons. We can do it all ourselves, but eventually Archer, ends up overruling them, and they start heading back to Earth. I'm kind of curious as to why they argued about this, to be honest.
Yeah, I was wondering it, just from a purely tactical standpoint, why would you want to exhaust your engineering crew while you're being actively hunted by an aggressive, assailant? That doesn't make any sense.
I agree.
They told them they wanted them working around the clock.
Yeah, I didn't understand this either because, by definition, too, you're going to be having some fairly dangerous work with that kind of schedule. So it's why are we risking this?
Yep.
And on a several year mission, a couple of weeks in dry dock to get your phasers installed doesn't seem like that big of a loss.
Right.
No.
So anyway, Trip and Reed decide to kind of just start working on it anyway on the way back to Earth, so they can have as much done and spend as little time as possible in dry dock. Which, okay, sure. I mean, that I guess makes sense. Maybe you can have something done when the alien ship comes back. So then we get whiplash at this point. We're once again on the B plot with Hoshi this time talking to Reed's sister, who's much more personable than her parents, or Reed for that matter, but still doesn't know his favorite food. She also talks to some other rando crewman who also is not helpful.
She tells Archer or somebody, she's like, I can't figure this shit out. I talked to his sister. I talked to his, I think it was a Starfleet Academy roommate or something. And she's like, I talked to his two spinster aunts.
Yeah, I'm like, oof.
I was like, what the fuck kind of weird ass judgment is that? Do we just assume that, are those two lesbians who weren't allowed to be married because it was 2002? Or, are they just, spinster is such a strong judgment, especially for 2350 or whatever this was supposed to be.
All right. Is spinster or crazy cat lady worse?
So
which
crazy cat lady is also not great, but at least that's not a judgment upon their sexuality. It's it's bringing sex into it. Because,
I see what you're saying.
Because a spinster is literally a woman who never married. And whether or not her interests are cats is at least something about her personally, as opposed to just she never married, this worthless bitch. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Spinster is the word we're using.
So Hoshi then, oh crap. Hold on. Sorry. My notes are confusing here.
Hoshi has that awkward meal with him, I think.
Yes, Hoshi tries to speak to Reed directly.
It's so good.
So awkward. So awkward. Hoshi's trying to just make conversation and kind of dance around the subject so she doesn't tell Reed, what exactly is going on. At which point Reed perceives this as Hoshi hitting on him, trying to get him to come to her apartment or her
90s
her
sitcom. I was expecting a Seinfeld musical sting after this scene.
Dude, this was the first time in the series though that I felt like Reed had a natural conversation with somebody.
You think that's natural?
To be
his
fair,
dialogue up till now has been very stilted, and I feel like the writers have kind of been using him to fill in where they need to.
And that's what I was going to say. To be fair, this is the first time we've seen in this show an opportunity for him to have a real conversation, because until now he was either on the job or saying something pithy and stupid.
Right, one-liners here or there. Yeah.
Yeah, I like this episode specifically because we actually got to know him a little bit.
Yeah, he seems less of a douche once you actually get to talk to him.
Yeah, I agree there. So, once again, Hoshi learns nothing. And then we're immediately whiplashed back to the alien ship is now following them. It attacks them again, it knocks out all their power, and it launches the shuttle and boards the Enterprise.
This is where I'm intercoms, wall-mounted intercoms should, never go down. Why is that, available? Why is that system not just hardwired?
Reasons.
like, I understand why comm badges would go down because there's a fair amount of complication in like pairing devices and frequencies and all that shit. But if you've got a there are wall mounted intercoms in houses from like the 70s that still work just fine.
Look, we had to have spoopy Mars attacks time, okay?
Yes. Yeah, those creepy ass aliens walking down the hall.
My exact notes on this were Mars attacks ass weird aliens.
I have my note going, well, don't mind us, as they kind of wander by.
Dude, the later like close-ups you see with their eye nubs, it was super creepy.
Yeah, they're pretty weird looking.
Some good CGI walking though.
Oh, yeah, that was CGI walking. That's true. So yeah, the alien kind of down two crewmen are doing some scans when the rest of the crew show up and try to fire on them, and it has no effect whatsoever. They're just like, that tickles. That's nice. We're just gonna take a nice leisurely stroll this way now. I'll see you later. Just a very odd like alien interaction.
Yeah, and it's fair that like I don't mind these aliens obviously have some kind of motivation that we do not understand. That's fine. I don't have a problem with aliens acting weird, you know?
Mm-hmm. So shortly after that, we're in the med bay, and we see the men who are down, but they're not dead, even though they look very dead. Just eyes weirdly open. They've got some type of possible neuro damage or something like that, Flock says, due to the invasive scans that were done. But they're still alive. Nobody's died yet. The Enterprise is damaged and stranded, basically. And they try to call for help from the Vulcans, and then at this point they realize the relay satellites they've already dropped have been destroyed.
I think, is this the part, like, right before this, we cut to, like, Reed, like, checking the phaser pipes? Because, like, he's in, like, a Jeffries tube, and there's just, like, iron pipes floating around him that he's, like, working on. Mm-hmm. And it's like, is that where the phasers come out? Like, what are these pipes doing?
They're piping.
Yeah, but yeah, and then is it Trip or Archer who's like, we're gonna call the Vulcans, it's just lives on the line, whatever.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But,
it was weird though, because like one of the other bits where Archer comes in, he's talking about regretting his past decisions, like how they went out of dock early to get that Klingon back home. Like it's like a freaking, oh my God, what's the word? Like when you get hit in a car, a whiplash. It was real whiplash hearing him feel, I don't know, uncertain about his decisions.
He also does the worst acting job he's done so far in that scene. Where he's like trying to give this like inspirational but also like mea culpa speech. Mm-hmm. And it's awful. I don't know if Bakula was sick that day. It is not well acted, even a little bit.
Yeah, Captain Dewar is second guessing himself on launching the Enterprise early before they had their guns. Which, I mean, sure.
And I like how Captain Archer in the middle of this is like, God, now I've put the lives of 81 crew members of Vulcan and Denobulan at risk. And Trip's like, hey, don't forget about Porthos.
Can't forget the pup.
Nope.
Although it seems like Archer does fairly often forget the pup.
Yeah, although he was on a walk this morning.
Oh yeah,
Porthos
that's true.
Is the goodest boy.
He's the goodest. But Trip gives him a little pep talk, and everything's fine. So we're good. We then kind of go into a scene where Trip and Reed are talking to each other, and they're kind of arguing a little bit back and forth about, should we overcharge the weapons and this and that, and Reed's saying it's worth the risk, and Trip's like, "Not I'm doing that. Got to play it safe." And then almost immediately changes his mind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because of that awesome speech by Archer. Yeah. We
get a little phase cannon test. And Archer tells him just shave a few meters off the top of that little mountain there, and then they fucking annihilate it,
which was incredible.
That was pretty good. Yeah. But they find out that there's like some device in the launch bay too, which, by the way, not a small device, like a giant thing.
No. But at least it's like up in the corner. No one's really looking there, because it's in like the
I feel like they
bay.
would have looked there. No, it was in the launch bay that they came into.
I guess there should be like a hey, we got boarded by aliens procedure where like
right
you like check for shit.
Yeah,
but
there's
also
got to
the
be
thing
some
was
sort of
putting
security
out
procedure there.
the thing was putting out 6 megajoules into their grid. Did they not have any way to detect that?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not an electrical engineer, but 6 megajoules sounds like a lot.
So they discover that the aliens are at this point peeping on them like a bunch of perverts, and Archer does a little tough guy speech to them through their camera.
The least intimidating fisheye camera angle speech ever given.
and he blows up the little device thing. And we move back into the med bay and we get news that thank God the 2 crewmen who we have no idea who they are, they're safe. They're fine.
Whew.
I was very concerned about crewman A and crewman B.
Me too.
Hoshi is at this point still looking for Reed's favorite food. And they start.
Best line in the show right here.
Well, which one?
Medically speaking, there's no accounting for taste.
Yeah.
Brilliant line. I don't know who wrote that. I don't know if the actor ad-libbed it. Fucking brilliant line. Well done.
It was pretty good. And also, that conversation made me very hungry because I hadn't eaten dinner yet. And they kept going on about like eggs and like sausage and bacon and omelets and shit. I'm like, God damn it, I'm hungry now.
I also appreciate that in the future, birthday dinners validate HIPAA violations.
Oh my God, so much for HIPAA is my note here. Although I will say, Phlox is happy to just HIPAA violate the fuck out of it. Although I will say that in the military, known allergies are public record to other military personnel for obvious reasons.
Right, which is where we learn of Reed's possible favorite food. We find out that he's allergic to a specific enzyme that is common in pineapple, and Reed takes a kind of a inhibitor that helps him able to ingest that enzyme. So the guess is that he likes some pineapple, which I guess we'll find out.
It could also be that he takes it because maybe the chef on Enterprise likes to cook with pineapple a lot and he doesn't feel like not eating.
Right. That was my thought as well. Like, maybe he just takes it because, he doesn't want to die if he accidentally eats something.
It's the only thing he's allergic to, and this very innocuous injection he can get once a month takes care of it.
Yeah, this just further reinforces my theory that Phlox is like the cultural glue that holds Enterprise together.
Yep. So shortly after that, the aliens are back and send back a nice cut up of Archer's tough guy speech that tells them to surrender their vessel, which I thought was a fun touch. They try out their new phasers and at regular power they're ineffective, which the par for the course for Enterprise weapons at this point. Archer's like, well, we blew up that whole fucking mountain. Why don't you do that now?
Archer's like, remember that industrial accident we had? Yes. Copy paste. Let's go.
So they quickly figure it out and they do some damage to the ship. And then they go ahead.
So their plan here, as I understand it, is they're gonna, because in Star Trek, okay. In Star Trek, the way things work is that if you put more power into them, they will do their thing better until you put too much power in and then it explodes. And
then all your consoles short circuit and explode.
Right. Okay. So what they're gonna do is put a bunch of power into the phaser to make it phaser better and hope it doesn't blow up. But they've also, but in order to do this, they have too much power. So their plan is to shunt any excess power in order to avoid it blowing things up into the grav plating to make the ship sturdier.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
That's a thing they could do because that is helpful as fuck. That should be default.
Default shit, yeah.
They talk about polarizing the hull all the time. It sounds like that's their plan to deal with energy weapons.
I assumed polarizing meant literally like some kind of crazy magnetizing, so that energy weapons just weren't as sticky to it.
Yeah, but like with just regular metal, you can make most metals magnetic by pumping enough electricity through them.
Right. But this is specifically power to the grav plating. So they're using
they specifically
gravity.
mentioned the grav plating.
Yeah, and there is a sense there. They're saying that they're using gravity as a way to reinforce the structures of the ship. I don't know how that would work, but like I get the theory, right?
Yeah.
Look, it's the Gorilla Glue of the future.
Actually, I don't get the theory. Why would that help?
I don't know. Moving on.
Okay.
So they do some damage, and then they fire those just such good quality torpedoes the Enterprise had, and it's like pew pew, and like the alien ship starts leaking some stuff and then runs away. Torpedoes still suck. They need to get better torpedoes. So they've won the day. Everything is great. They decide they're not going back to Earth after all, and then we get the
why.
resolution.
Why not? I don't understand. I don't understand why they're not going back.
Earlier they're themselves up by their bootstraps.
Earlier they're like,
they strapped those boots so hard, everything is fine.
My crew has managed to do in 48 hours what it would take them 2 weeks at Jupiter Station. That's not a good thing. Like that's a bad thing.
You know the real reason. Toxic masculinity.
God, I don't want to look weak by going back to station to fix all the damage and make sure my phasers are better.
Nope, exactly. That's dumb. Totally stupid.
Man, that's good thing the woman wasn't up here to influence me. I assigned her to birthday party duty.
Speaking of which, she succeeded with flying colors.
Yes, she did.
The pineapple was a hit. Pineapple cake.
Although Reed's just gonna finger fuck all their pieces as he's fucking pulled them out of that cake, though.
Well, he had to hold it, man. You gotta touch everybody's cake because it's his birthday, so that's him just giving a little bit of himself to you. When you,
I'm not gonna lie, I'd still eat it. Pineapple upside down cake is fucking incredible.
It is pretty good,
and I don't even like pineapple like by itself.
I enjoy pineapple. I don't like cooked pineapple though.
I'm the opposite. I like cooked pineapple. I don't like it raw.
Don't like.
I appreciate all pineapple.
Anyway, resolution of episode. Everybody's great. The end. Any final thoughts on the episode?
It was. I know I'm gonna sound like out of the blue here because we never say this, but like, it wasn't good.
Yeah, it was kind of a letdown after the last one, which was a pretty good episode.
Yeah, and I guess like I shouldn't say good or bad because it's not, there's a lot of subjectiveness in art and stuff. So like obviously I did not care for it. I'm not saying the episode was bad, but I do think I can fairly say like the story was kind of poorly handled.
Well, and I just I mentioned this to you before we kind of started recording, and it just didn't feel like a whole lot happened.
Yeah. Yeah, and as you pointed out, the A and B plots didn't tie together in a good way. Right.
So I think the real problem here is that the B plot was more interesting than the A plot.
100%.
Yes.
Well, so actually, what was the A plot? Was the A plot getting the phasers, or was the A plot the alien?
I think the A plot was the aliens.
The aliens, yeah. Phasers were just part of that.
Yeah, that's what justified them with the rush job. Why they wanted.
That's why the A plot did not feel as good as the B plot, because at least the B plot stuck to its own plot the whole time. The A plot is like, our conflict is the aliens, but then they're going to go away and we're going to have a new conflict about these phasers. And then we're going to have the alien conflict come back. That's like poor story writing 101, right? Where you have the main conflict suspend, you introduce a minor conflict, and then you bring the A conflict back. You need to either run them parallel or pick one or the other. Like it actually would have been a better episode if they didn't give a fuck about Reed's birthday and the A plot was the aliens while the B plot was the phasers and the disagreement between Trip and Reed. Like that would have been a better writing episode.
It's tie-in.
Right. And then like the pressure of the aliens and going back to Jupiter Station and then that not working could have like applied to the conflict between Reed and Trip. And then you have your like fun Predator moment at the end where they shake hands and then they make the phasers work and, yada, yada. That would have been a stronger story for this episode.
All right. Well, after our short break, we're going to come back and do our deep dive. Welcome back, everybody. It is time for our deep dive of this episode, and today I wanted to talk about first contacts in general, kind of go over some of the more well-known ones and kind of get some feedback on what your guys' kind of favorite ones are, or more memorable at least.
Oh shit, oh man, so you told us that we were going to be doing first contacts earlier, and you were like going to go over some of them. I didn't realize I was supposed to come prepared with a favorite one.
No, that's fine. No, it's you don't need to be prepared. You can go off the cuff. It's fine. So obviously the first one that comes to my mind is the one that's named the namesake of of one of my favorite Star Trek movies, which is the first contact between humans and Vulcans, which is obviously very relevant for Enterprise because that's clearly a relationship between those two races that has a big impact on the show. But just I enjoyed that first contact scene from the movie very much because you have kind of the very prim and proper Vulcans, for lack of a better description, very quiet, just arriving, and then you have the rabble of humans greeting them.
Mm-hmm.
Another one that I very much enjoyed was
wait. On that first one.
Yes.
So, because you're like first contact. So I looked this up on Memory Alpha because I was like, is there like canonical like first contact procedures and stuff? I actually still don't know the answer to that, but it turns out that they had to very specifically put in the article on Memory Alpha that first contact with a lowercase c is the article for the concept of first contact. Because if you capitalize the C, it becomes the historical event known as first contact.
Which is the one
the one you just described.
Yeah.
Yes. Huh. So, and the fact that note is in there means they probably had to like quickly jury rig their CSS on that page in order to make sure that the page didn't automatically capitalize the title of the page. But also, I bet there were so many editors trying to capitalize it in order to go with the style guide of a wiki that like they had to put this note in here, like stop capitalizing this shit.
Yep. So I'm glad you mentioned Memory Alpha because it actually referenced something that I didn't really think about as a first contact, but the Roswell UFO incident, which of course was in DS9, the Ferengi visiting Roswell in 1947, which was just probably one of my favorite DS9 episodes, to be honest.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Yeah, man.
It's so good.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
You have they're trying to sell advanced technology to the United States in exchange for gold, which is just classic Ferengi. Just one of my favorite DS9 episodes, and one I didn't really think about as first contact, but technically was the first contact for humans.
No. So not according to Memory Alpha.
Oh no?
Because there was like a 1930s thing where Kirk and Spock went back in time in some episode.
See that note.
Yeah, I saw a picture of it.
Ah, okay. There you go.
Yeah. And that was like first contact between a Vulcan and human because like Spock met somebody in 1930 something.
Mm-hmm. We also have relevance-wise to the show we're watching now, the human Klingon first contact, which I guess technically speaking would be Klang would be their first.
That is what it said. Yep.
Yeah, first contact. Which as far as first contacts go, probably pretty appropriate for a Klingon. Something blew up basically.
Yeah.
Which totally fits in.
What did they call it? Because it's a such and such. Was it a Klangon? What did he call it?
I don't remember.
He said it was pronounced. He pronounced it wrong, and it was funny.
Yeah.
This is a good story. It's a good podcast story right there. I'm glad I told it.
There's of course, the Andorian first contact that where the humans meet the Andorians on Pajem on I can't remember what the name of the episode was, but
it was the Andorian incident.
Oh, sure. Yep. Okay, that makes sense. A lot of first contacts, which obviously makes sense for the time period of the show. And honestly, most of the first contact type episodes they do are actually the more interesting ones in this series.
Yeah, and that's true, I think, across series, because it allows the writers to explore something new and unknown and have a good reason for it, as opposed to just like, this is new and unknown because we want it to be, but it's like, no, here's an alien culture. We can do something wacky, like make them, I don't know, all left-handed or something. Sometimes they are really lacking in imagination for these races. It's like, look, these people's foreheads are a little different.
Yeah, it's why like the first phase of any horror movie is always the best part, because like you haven't seen the monster yet, so it's just more mysterious.
Well, speaking of monsters, probably one of my favorite first contact episodes is where the Federation meet the Borg first. Q flicks them into the other quadrant of the Enterprise, into the other quadrant, and they run into the Borg for the first time, which I love as an episode, because of kind of how defenseless and minuscule they are compared to the Borg. They definitely give a sense of this kind of doomsday enemy.
Yeah, that episode combines two of my least favorite parts of Star
Trek,
it does, which is Q and the Borg.
Yep. I know
you don't like the Borg?
I do not care for the Borg, which is actually ironic because First Contact is probably my favorite Star Trek movie.
That is ironic.
I do not care for the Borg as a concept, and I'm sure that this will be a longer discussion once they actually show up. But I find them to be too conveniently written, because they're not. I don't think they're utilized correctly, because they're supposed to be like this omnipresent danger that needs to be like a central tension, but then also but the writers use them as like a tool to tell individual episode stories, which means that the good guys have to beat them. So it ends up, instead of being like this incremental victory, if you want to, over the course of like, years of conflict with the Borg, or as just this omnipresent dread that is always like potentially a problem, it ends up being just like the word they use when they want to shorthand that the problem they're about to deal with is theoretically tough, but it's okay, they're going to be successful anyways.
I don't know if I 100% agree with you, because I mean, like, they stretched out like the initial Borg episodes over 2 episodes, and you have kind of the first, 3, yeah, I guess that's true, yeah. You have, the Wolf 359 incident where they get, fucking obliterated by the Borg.
Right. And so Wolf 359 is a great example of how they could have used the Borg, which is that if you want the Borg to be this existential threat to Starfleet, you need all of their interactions to be like that. And you need a bunch of them, or at least talk about a bunch of them, because that's a real problem that they do not know how to solve. But when that happens once, that's fine. It's kind of like, you know what it is? Someone did a statistical study or some shit, and they found out that Worf is the most beaten up crew member of Next Generation. And there's a reason. The reason is because he is a Klingon, and in the shorthand of Star Trek, we know that the Klingon security officer is the toughest, strongest, most unbelievable human being, or humanoid, I should say, on the ship. So therefore, whenever the writers need to show that
there is real danger.
Right, that the enemy is really dangerous, they have them punch Worf. So Worf ends up being the most abused member on the show.
Or, they throw barrels at him and break his spine.
So they set the Borg up to be this unbelievably powerful, constant problem that the galaxy is soon going to be facing. Because if I recall, Q puts them like on the edge of the Delta Quadrant, like, this shit's coming, man. But then, like Worf, the Starfleet just punches the Borg in the face every single time they meet them, except for that one time where they had to show that the Borg are tough.
I get what you're saying. But also, I don't think they could have effectively done that in the format that Star Trek was in.
Absolutely they could have. Absolutely they could have. Because all they had to do was make the Borg be something that they were scared of, but not the plot of the individual episodes. Like rescuing people from Borg attacks, or like the Borg are going to be here in 30 hours and the plot is that the ship's fucking hyperdrive. Jesus. The ship's warp drive isn't working and we need to get it on going. That's how you make it work.
I understand what you're saying, but at that point, then you're not in the same format that Star Trek was in at that time. You're in a more season-long arc as opposed to episodic.
No. I don't agree. I don't think there needs to be an arc. The Borg can't have an arc, or else they're defeatable. They need to be like an environmental hazard, like, I think, like a Nebula.
Are you saying that any conflict with the Borg shouldn't have a resolution?
No, what I'm saying is that the writers should treat the Borg like an environmental problem, not an antagonist.
So I just disagree with that concept. I'm sorry, I do. I just disagree.
I accept your apology.
I think they can be used in either way, but I tend to agree with Matthew on this one. Like
my name is Stanford.
I'm sorry, Stanford. I think that I'm not the biggest Voyager fan in the world. I quit pretty early on there. I did catch like individual episodes later on. I think that they do try to take it as more of like a societal issue through 7 of 9.
Yes, and Voyager does, I will say, a better job, but even they do the same thing where it's like, we're in constant fear of the Borg, we're in constant fear of the Borg, we're in constant fear of the Borg. Okay, great. That's just what we're dealing with. But then when they finally actually have to go toe-to-toe with the Borg, of course they're successful. Like, so in Voyager is funny enough because Voyager actually has the least ability to make it interesting, because in Voyager they only got one ship. Once that ship's blown up, the show's over. Whereas in Next Generation and Deep Space Nine, although I don't know if Borg ever showed up in DS9. No, maybe they didn't. But in Next Generation, the Borg can show up and annihilate a ship, no fucking problem, because like, well, we got more ships. We're here. Like, this is where the show is, So Voyager, while they did a better job generally, where the Borg were more of a setting, a central conflict, or a central tension, rather than an antagonist, when they did go toe-to-toe with the Borg, they suffered greatly from the fact that they were just a show where there was only one ship, and if that ship was lost, that was the end of the show.
Okay. Understood. For the purpose of time, I think we need to move on, though.
We're good. My potpourri is real short. You keep going.
Well, do you guys have any other any memorable first contacts, ones you liked or that I didn't mention?
Not particularly memorable, but very important to later seasons. Kirk meeting the Gorn.
I say, yeah, that's certainly one. You have the fucking fight scene.
Uh-huh.
Oh gosh, classic.
Oh man, and I've been like, while I've been working, I've been putting on Voyager. It has gone straight back into like classic Star Trek choreography for fighting, and it's just like, oh, there's so many 2-hand punches already thrown in like the first couple episodes.
So many 2-hand punches.
So it's like the 2-handed uppercut that gets used a lot, like the side uppercut. That's the roundhouse kick of Star Trek.
Just did not have a fight choreographer.
No, they had one. He did his job back in the 60s. Boy, so first contacts that were memorable to me. Cause like I gotta admit, my favorite episodes of Star Trek, I don't think involve first contacts.
That's okay. There's a lot of good episodes.
Yeah, I don't know. Boy, that's a good question.
Maybe it's just because it's so recent in my mind. The episode, it was a couple episodes ago where we wind up on that planet with the apothecary.
Okay.
That was actually, I liked that episode a lot. I felt like it was very well done.
I don't think it was anywhere, it wasn't really centralized around the concept of first contact for sure. But yeah, I did enjoy that as well. One thing I did think about too that I liked how, because it was handled differently, was kind of the introduction to the Dominion. Because in DS9, like the Dominion and who they are is kind of like hinted about in like a number of episodes before you even meet anybody from the Dominion. Like they go to the Delta Quadrant and people like, mention the Dominion being this thing.
Gamma Quadrant.
Gamma, yes, Gamma. We were just talking about Borg and
Right. Yeah, no, I get it.
But I thought that was
DS9 is all beta and gamma quadrants.
Mm-hmm. And I thought it was interesting that alpha quadrant, you mean?
No, beta and gamma. Bajor, that was the whole thing with the wormhole. The wormhole connects the beta and the gamma quadrants, which is important quadrant. Because what?
Alpha quadrant.
No, it's the beta quadrant.
It's the alpha.
Alpha is between beta and gamma. And so
I'm just telling you what memory alpha says.
Are you looking it up right now? Am I wrong?
Yes, you are wrong. The alpha quadrant is like the human the one the humans are in.
Right, but I thought that Bajor was in the beta quadrant, like right on the edge. Fucking hell, man.
Alpha quadrant.
No, it is in the alpha quadrant. Interesting. Okay, but it connects to the gamma quadrant?
Yep.
So who's in the beta quadrant? Is that the Romulans? We go to the beta quadrant all the time.
Do we?
Okay, this is not for tonight. We'll talk about the quadrant system later.
So anyway, I think that'll put a wrap on our first contact segment here.
Wait, I didn't give a favorite.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Let's go with. Oh, hold on. I'm going to cut out a lot of this pausing because make it sound like I had one just on the fucking ready. Maybe I'll put mine in before Rob's. That's
rude.
That's a joke, Rob. I wouldn't do that. If I can kind of go outside of the canon that we're generally talking about, I really liked the way that like the first contact was handled in the first movie. Wait, no, they already knew the Romulans, didn't they? In the Kelvin movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were aware of them.
Okay. I don't know if y'all remember, but when they met the Romulans in... See, I don't know if that was a first contact. When they dealt with the... God damn it. No, I don't have one. Never mind. Fucking ignore me.
Leo, I think Leo has one.
Yeah, Leo
does have one.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just my brain's not sticking to any like first contact because my favorite episodes are not first contacts.
That's all right. Well, we talked about it, a bunch of them, and your hate for one in particular. And I think after our little short break here, Rob has some, or not Rob, Stanford has some potpourri for us.
Yes, I do. Welcome back. So today for Potpourri, I'm going to do what I am terming Today in Trek. Basically, I found some stuff that's kind of going on in Star Trek right now. Star Trek media. I didn't check the health of old actors or any of that stuff. And I want to do these, I don't know, once a year or so, just so we can kind of keep up, because like there is new Trek happening, which is kind of interesting because that didn't, like before Discovery, there was quite a desert of Star Trek media, especially in terms of television.
Yeah, there was a pretty big gap between Enterprise and Discovery.
Yes. There's probably a reason for that, and we might be going through it week by week as to what that reason might have been. But for some reason, Enterprise left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. So, there had not been.
Was it Scott Bakula's singing career?
That was it. So I've got a few bullet points here on some things that are going on right now. So I'm going to start with Star Trek Picard. They wrapped their very fan servicey third season. If you haven't watched it yet, there's going to be like a minor spoiler here. I don't want to ruin it for anyone. But at the end of the show, the Titan gets refit and renamed the Enterprise G, which I have so many problems with, but that's not what I'm here to do right now. But the captain of the Enterprise G is 7 of 9. And this is like, welcome to 2023. This was obviously written and done and filmed and displayed to the audience as like, we're definitely going to have a show where Jerry Ryan is the captain of the Enterprise G, and it's going to be a new show. Like anyone who didn't think that was going to happen, I don't think was paying proper attention. You can tell just by how those shots were done at the end of that show that that's going to happen, right?
Have you heard anything? Because I haven't.
Yeah, I have. It's called Star Trek Legacy.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
So the same way that Strange New Worlds virally accidentally got fan petitioned to be made into a show, even though like this is just, like I said, this is 2023 marketing right here. This is how this stuff works. It was obvious in the episodes with Pike and all the sets from Star Trek and all the uniforms. They're like, oh, that's going to be its own show.
100%. Yeah, that was super obvious. Yeah.
Yes. The same way there was also a change.org petition, because that's what this website is for, to have Star Trek Legacy be a thing. And it got even more signatures apparently than the Strange New Worlds petition. And so Star Trek Legacy is, if not officially announced, kind of like officially announced, like it's going to happen. And as I understand the general plan there from my gleanings from the internet is that it's going to be, helmed by Jerry Ryan. The, what is her character's name? The black woman from Picard.
Oh, Raffi?
Raffi. Raffi, I think, is her first officer, if I recall correctly, but she's definitely on the show. Probably the older cast members, except for Ryan, are not going to be there, but they may,
that would make sense.
Cameo every once in a while.
Sure.
There's talk about either Mulgrew or Frakes coming back as like an admiral for that show. Although Tuvok is also an admiral, right? Because he showed up.
Right.
But anyway, so yes, it's called Star Trek Legacy. I don't think filming has started yet, but there's definitely been some like planning on that.
Gotcha.
And speaking of Strange New Worlds, the second season of that show is due to start streaming in a couple of weeks.
Oh, yes.
It's been very popular so far. That kept the fans pretty happy throughout the first season. It didn't really have any big hiccups as far as the general fan base is concerned. And so we'll see if Captain Daddy can keep it up for another season.
Oh, yeah. I sent you that picture from the trailer earlier. We got old Boimler and her name.
Burnham.
Not Burnham. Burnham is from Discovery.
Oh, Michael Burnham. Oh, yeah, Tawny Newsom's character. What is her name?
I can't think of it. Anyway, from Lower Decks are making a cameo at some point in the season.
Which is weird because it's both live action and they are not contemporary shows.
No, they are not. So obviously there's some time travel going to happen.
Yep.
Should be interesting, though. Those are very fun characters.
Yes, although I'm very interested to see if they manage to keep that Lower Decks kind of attitude in a live action format, even for a couple of scenes.
Right.
So yes, I did. Yes, you sent me that today. But they that season is starting June 15th, which as of recording is like 20 days from now. Mm-hmm. So I will go ahead and hate watch that with everybody.
We'll be like watching it. You can hate watch it.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for this.
Yeah. Very, very much anticipating.
Tangentially related, I was going through Memory Alpha and I happened to get to the Melora episode of DS9, the whole wheelchair thing. I called dibs on that fucking episode. What a goddamn train wreck. So speaking of Lower Decks, that has been renewed for a 5th season. The 4th season is going to start streaming at the end of the summer. But they have renewed the 5th season of that.
Such a good show.
Very good show. Probably my favorite consistent Star Trek show.
I gotta watch that.
You
haven't watched it? Don't wait for us, man.
No.
You gotta watch that shit. It is so good. Okay, let's see. Lower Decks renewed for 5th season. So Star Trek Prodigy, that is the children's show, the CGI one that is on Paramount.
Right.
It had a 20 episode first season that was kind of split in half, 10 like for a little bit, then a break, then 10 more. That finished last winter, and it was picked up for a season 2 that is due to start streaming this winter. I watched the first 10 episodes. I enjoyed it. I watched it with my son. We have not seen the second half of that first season, but as far as I can tell, everyone seems to think it's good for what it is, which is child-friendly, interesting.
It reminds me a lot of like Star Trek Rebels, or Star Wars Rebels, rather. Like if you've watched any of that show.
I did not, no.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you.
I did not consume any of the animated Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, it's a totally acceptable kids animated Star Trek show.
Yes, I thought it was good. And Kay Mulgre's in it, which is fun.
There's a couple voices in there.
And then the only video game I could find that has released in like the last like few years, believe it or not, is a game called Star Trek Resurgence, which released this year. I don't know anything about it other than what they tell me on their website. They call it a narrative adventure game. It looks kind of like Mass Effect, but I don't think it's quite as strong of an RPG.
I have no idea what you're talking about. So this is.
But you don't worry. You can romance some characters in it.
Well, of course you can.
Yeah.
Sexy alien ladies. Look, I want to role play as Riker. Okay. I need his I also need his little short robe that he wears occasionally in Next Generation.
Why were the bathrobes in Next Generation so short?
So short. I'm pretty sure at the wrong angle you would have seen his balls hanging out.
Like I was in the 90s. I don't remember robes being that short.
Right, but it was futuristic for the 90s, so they expected everybody's balls to be out then.
I don't know, man. My dad 100% had a very short bathrobe that he wore frequently.
I know your dad, and that is horrifying.
I have seen that robe. Yeah, and so that's all that's really kind of happening right now. There's cons and Star Trek cruises and stuff. There's too many of those to really go into, but those are happening a couple times a year, and you can go do that if that's your jam. My parents, my mom and my stepdad go to the Star Trek cruise every once in a while. They really enjoy it, or go to the cons.
Yeah, didn't they meet the guy who played Saru?
They've met everybody. Everyone who does the con circuits, they've met. There's a picture of Brett Spiner holding my parents' dog.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, it's if that's your thing. I don't really like conventions that much, which is ironic because I have to work at a lot of them.
Maybe that's why you don't like them.
But a lot of people do obviously enjoy them because apparently the Star Trek ones still sell out all over the country. So, and so, yeah, if that's your thing, those are pretty much always happening. So that is what is going on right now. Is there anything anyone's looking forward to specifically? I know you two are looking forward to Strange New Worlds.
Yeah. That and Lower Decks too, for sure.
Yeah. I think that, oh, sorry, go ahead, Rob.
I was going to say, I really got to start that series. Everyone I've talked to about it really loves it.
It's very good.
It's very good. It is irreverent in the right way to make it entertaining, but
it is still Star Trek.
Interesting. Yes.
What era is it in? I don't even know where it falls on the timeline.
It's just post TNG. It's contemporary with Picard. It actually might be a little before Picard because Frakes is Captain of the Titan.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just after TNG. Or I guess like not even after TNG, after the movies, like the TNG movies.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I am tentatively looking forward to Star Trek Legacy. I think that my issues with Picard are going to go away with Star Trek Legacy.
You think?
And Ryan was probably the best actor in that show that came like from the previous shows.
You also get Raffi though.
She's good too.
I don't know if I agree.
Don't care for Raffi.
I don't care for Raffi.
Oh no, what's your issue with Raffi?
I don't know. She's just like all over the place, man. Like I think the acting's fine for him. I thought you didn't like the actor. Oh, you don't like the character. I don't like the character.
Oh, I think that like, cause yeah, you're right. She was kind of all over the place. I think that they kind of fixed her in the end because she's like not an addict anymore. Although that is bad fodder for shitty writing because it is going to be very tiring if like her being an addict is the thing that defines her character throughout the new show too. It's like, all right, yep, and Raffi fucking slides back again. Here we go. That will get very old very quickly.
So, I mean, well, I think probably, especially if they're on the same ship. I mean, obviously, they're Jerry Ryan and her Seven and Raffi's romance past will, I'm sure, come up, right?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yep.
That's funny, but yeah, but no, I like where 7 of 9's character has gone. I think that she's going to do a good job as a captain, as a like the pillar of a show, and I think that it will be a much stronger story engine than Picard was.
Well, that's going to be my question: is what type of are we? Is it going to be a story like season arc or?
Right. Well, I'm sure it'll be a season arc because like that's how the shows are nowadays. And I don't have a problem with that. My hope is that they do something new rather than Picard, which just did the old shit over and over again. We're good on the Borg and the Dominion and all this other nonsense. Can we just move on? Do something new? So hopefully that's what they do with it. So I am tentatively looking forward to Star Trek Legacy. Although, like I said, they haven't even really started filming yet, so I'm sure it's not going to be out for another couple of years.
It's gonna be a bit.
So, all right, and that's what's going on. So, I think we will call it there. Thank you everyone for joining us. Yeah, we are 3 episodes actually published now, which is cool. We've got some views, but like it's slow going. Because we're brand new. We're new at this. The podcast itself is new, and there isn't like a YouTube recommendation algorithm for podcasts, right? So I know we're saying it at the top and the bottom now of every show, but it really does, apparently, from what I understand, help if you rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, because they do have a light recommendation algorithm, which is basically like, this show's popular, try this, instead of like actually interest-based. So please, if you have a few minutes, if you like the show, if you don't like the show, lie through your teeth, I don't care, but go give us a 5-star rating if you can, and a nice review, and we'll be eternally grateful. So, but that will do us for tonight. Thank you so much, and good night.
Bye-bye.
I can never tell if Rob's going to say goodbye or not.
No, I just wait for Chris to say it. It's become our thing now.
Thanks for listening to Captain's Log Supplemental. You can follow us on Twitter at PodCLS or send us hate mail at podcls3@gmail.com.